Hello and welcome to the second video of this video series of automation of API, REST API testing with Postman. So in this video, we are going to discuss about some further information about the APIs, the purpose, the structure, how we're going to design a API, and then the different types of API specifications, and from a specification how we create these collections in Postman by just importing these specifications, and then automatically how we can define different types of API specifications and how to import these specifications into Postman, and then create the collections, and also some tests how to add automated, using the Postbot, how we can add test automatically. So first of all, when we design API, we have to decide on the purpose of the API, like why we need this API, what we want to do with it, because that questions we ask is important for our testing purpose also, because when we are testing, we plan our test, we need to think that okay, whether this API is used by whom, used for which purpose, and our test, the scenarios, use cases are matching to cover that the usages. So one other thing is we can think about the people, who are going to use this the API. So as the persons, people interacting, we think okay, this user comes in and then do something like that. So that can go as a test case. And one more thing is the usability of the API, if how many endpoints are there, if it is only one endpoint and there are so many so much information coming in from one endpoint, then that is very hard to process. But if it is very granular, like so many endpoints, each one by one, then it is very difficult to do a flow of testing, and flow of workflow, to maintain the workflow will be very hard, as well as very difficult to maintain the API and maintain the workflow, because we don't know, they are too granular. It's only some specific info coming from one endpoint. So we have to think about this before we start testing also. We have to think, okay, whether these endpoints are matching our purpose, is it good enough, or is it can be more granular, or it is too much. So those kind of things we have to check. And it's sometimes it's to check this one, the endpoints can be named as nouns, for this example, if you want to get some employee details, the endpoint can be employees. And then for a specific employee, if you want to get some specific information, then the employee ID can go as a query parameter. Then that is specific information can be retrieved. So it's not like different endpoints for each and individual employee kind of thing, but the one endpoint, but it's still you can filter out the information and get what you need. And then when you are testing, it's important to check the meaningful error message. If the information the API request is wrong, some parameter data type is wrong or something, what's the error message you receive? If there is some authentication error, what is the error message is received? So that error messages should be meaningful, and those what do you get as error message also should be validated whether it's a meaningful error message. And then the API documentation part, for this any API, you have some documentation describing the endpoints, the actions you can perform, the data, the mandatory values you have to pass, and so on. So this documentation you have to follow, and our tests, our request should be built based on the documentation, so we can validate the documentation as well. So that also need to be keep in mind. Then this API specification, when you are doing an API, we have to have a specification. That specification can be different types, this RESTful API modeling language. It can be API blueprint, that is not widely used, and this open API specification, that is the most commonly used one. So if you have a specification, then you can edit it. You can, as an editor, you can use this Swagger IO editor, and like this one. So this is a sample editor. This is the specification So you have the all the specifications. You can see the endpoints as paths. So this is like kind of a metadata. This is your the base URL, and then the pet store one, and then you have different endpoints like pet, and then you can see the actions you can perform, what you can do. You can get the information, and then you can post this information like that, and the error codes, like if there's invalid input, what is the error code, and well, if there's validation exception, what is the error code you get. So like that, and this is another endpoint like pet find by status. So like this, so this is the specification, and when this is specification, if you want to like the schema or something, it's like this is some reference point. It's go to the some other section of the same specification. So you can go and see like the under components schema pet, what is the schema. You can see if you come down, and then you can see it's still design points, and these are components. Under schemas you can see what are the data types. See the customer, the IDs should be integer, and address should be object, street should be string type. So like that you define the data types also. So this is a typical specification of a REST API. Then you can save this, and so save as a YAML file, and then this YAML file you can import into the Postman directly. Like here you can import it. You go to the APIs, and then you can import, and you get the file. So this is the latest one I download, and this is the previous one I downloaded. So if I import this, then it will ask like, okay, I will create the API as well as a Postman collection associated with that API as well. So I do the import thing. So it's imported. Now both are imported. So this is the API now. See, now this one, you can see this is the definition. Okay, this is the definition. They have imported the same definition we observed in the same definition we imported, we saw in that web URL, and this is the collection. As a collection, these are the like different endpoints. Under the pet section there are like 3 endpoints: find by status, find by tags, and then you can do upload images, and for the pet, and this store also same thing in the inventory order. So this is a collection already, like all the requests are already imported into Postman. So now we can just do the testing part. So I imported it as a API as well as a collection. So collection is here, the same as like you can see, all the actions are here. So now your basic tests, basic actions you have to perform, already we have already imported there. Then what we can do is, like, we can, if you want, like, we can now keep on adding tests and stuff we can do. I just maybe run run as collection. Okay, and maybe certain things will fail because like the parameters and stuff we have to check, but these things are like passing, pet by status, you are getting there are no tests, but you get the response back. Tag you are getting. So these things like the pet, the ID, because this one, the delete one, we have not substitute the ID, so that's why this one is failing. So if you go here and you go to the variable section, this is the base variable actually, the pet section. See here the pet ID. The pet ID, here you can see the pet ID is defined as a path variable under the requests, but we have not given ID. So like if we change this one and give a ID, now this will pass. Okay, we are getting some pass. So like earlier what happened was like this one, the delete one, it 404 not found error we got because we didn't have any ID given. Now we have given ID, so it will now not give any issue. So I'm closing these unnecessary tabs first. Okay, so if I run this again, see now this one is passing even though there are no tests. So now if you want to add some tests to this automatically, you can use this Postbot. Okay, this is the generate test path. I mean generate test auto, I mean using AI tool. So you can just click the generate tests, and here you can generate tests. But yeah, so this is actually this one is like not supported by for the JSON types, so we have to use some other like only for JSON types, but these are like XML sorry, the HTML one, so this is not supported, but I will show you like in some other JSON one, like this one also, like we don't have any you see the scripts part, you don't have any tests. Okay, so if I come here and if I go to the Postbot generate tests, okay, so now it's working on that one, so it will automatically add it. Okay, so this Postbot added some tests to identify when you do this one, your response status code should be 200 and the content type should be JSON, and the required fields should be included in the response, and the presence of specific properties. So then I mean you can further add it also, like now if you go to this is Postman and you go to scripts, okay, there should be like now we have to save this one, and if you run this one now, I will execute this one as a collection, run collection. Okay, let me add it again. You go to Star Wars, generate tests, save tests. Test script saved successfully. Yeah, we have to save the test, so that's why it was not added previously. So now you can see that these tests are already added, no? So you can see that it's a very try to validate the required fields are there. These fields are, if one of the fields are missing in the response, then the test will be failed. And then the other things like this is the data types, and this is the field validation, this is the data type validation, this is the response code validation, and you can add more tests as well, like you know, you can add some more tests if you want. For requests have tests, but if you want further tests for one particular request kind of, then you go to the request and test for response. I think we already have it, and we go to the each request and we can request to add more tests. So that means it will add some performance related tests as well, like the response times and stuff. So you can see now like you add some more tests, let's say the required field, the response time, those things were added. So now you can see, if you see expected number of elements, some more and more, like response time less than 500 milliseconds. So these kind of tests added. So one thing is, when you want to add tests, like you can get these as examples, as well as you can just automatically you just added it. So if you run this one, then it will be like you will see that whether these expected results are there, the tests are passed or not. So now if you go here, you can see like running the requests, and see now like some sessions were failed because you have to go and check, but you can see definitely in this request some assertions were failed, because it automatically we added some tests and these are failing. Maybe it's the test error, but we can check that one. So basically that is like from the specification how you import the tests, and then using Postbot how we can add the tests and execute. So these are important when we go to the other areas. So similarly, like when we test the different types of tests, like the contract testing, that is like API meets a certain given specification. That's what we did here. That there is a like kind of a specification we import, and from the specification we can take this test as example, and we try to validate like whether the required fields are there, required data types are there. So that is what we call the contract testing. And then the workflow testing, that is like you create a user, then you from that user you get some information. So like you post something and then you try to get, and then you edit something and see whether the values are edited. So these kind of a workflow we test. It's the integration testing. So you should have like different flow of requests here, and one request will link to the other one, and this flow should hold on. So that is what we call the integration testing. And negative testing, yeah, we do some the data types, we input some wrong data types and check the error messages. We like try to bulk load something to break the thresholds and check something, and then we pass like some invalid strings and some lengthy characters exceeding the limitations, and see what's happening in their codes, or like how the system behaves. So that is a negative testing. And security testing, when I come to that one under authorization, like how we check the validate the authorizations, authentication parts, and those kind of things. And performance testing, like one part of performance test is like for a particular request, one request we check the response time. This one we expect it should be less than 500 milliseconds. The response time should be less than 500 milliseconds. But if I made it like 1 millisecond or something, maybe this test will fail. So if for some reason we expect it to be 500 milliseconds, but for some server issue, this one like now taking 1 second, something, that test will fail. Then we know that the performance has degraded with a certain release. So that is one type of performance testing. Other thing is like when we run the collection itself, we can run as a performance test itself. So you go to the run collection, and then here you can see the performance. So then like a load run or something, we can define like some load profile, like 20 virtual users. Within 10 minutes we run these scripts repeatedly for like let's say one minute, 20 users, and we run it, and then we can see how the response times and the performance, the behavior. So for an example, if it can be ramp up also, like this initially like initial load like only 5 users for like some time, then it gradually increase to 20 users, and then keep it for the rest of the 10 minutes. And the spike is like you keep 2 users for some time, then suddenly it goes to 20 users, and then come back to 2 users, and for the rest of like the duration. And peak is like you go to a certain peak, and then there's a peak sometime, then you gradually come back and keep it. So base load is this is the level 4. So for an example, if this we use it for like fixed with 5 users 1 minute kind of test, then we run it. You can see it is in progress, and then so you can now see like we 5 users, it's sending this many requests. So it's keep on adding, and you can compare this average response times, the minutes, the maximum response time is took, and then we can just stop it and then go inside. And sorry, yeah, but later we will see we can go it as a collection previous runs. And check for the values somewhere. So that part, like I just wanted to show you that we can run it as a performance test as well. So drill down details we have to see, and we can, I mean, this one we can export as a PDF report or HTML report as well, and different runs we can compare as well if we have some the comparisons, I mean previous the run we do 2 runs and we can compare and see like if there is any degradation or something. So that is the 2 types of performance testing I can suggest. One is at the request level for the response time, and as a performance test with virtual users. So next video we will discuss about the variables, the type of variables, how we can use the variables, how we can parameterize tests and stuff. So bit more technical in Postman. Thank you very much.